So now luckily the clear coat isn't peeling on this, it's just the original gel coat on the outside. It probably just needs a little bit of wax. However, I will be left with these holes right there, which I'll have to address. We have this damage to the fiberglass right there, which you'll have to address. There's a little bit of spidering in there. Again, I'm not going for an award show. We're just going to make sure it's stable. I think it is mostly stable. So what you're saying is, once I grind this out, I do the fiberglass repair, we're going to grind this down with about 180 or 80 grit. Yeah. To bite into the gel coat right there, expose the fiberglass hair, and then when I resin this, I'll be able to resin that fiberglass to reinforce it, and then as I do this repair, I should be able to float out any filler polyester over the top of it, sand it out, and then prime and paint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the correct way of fixing this, though.
Right, no, the correct way of doing it would be to grind it out and actually do a fiberglass repair on it.
Yeah, use that panel.
Right, if you were paying a shop to do this, for sure. Yeah. But if you're a DIYer or an owner and you just want to make sure you're stabilizing it and keeping the water and not being such an eyesore, I think it's going to be fine. Yeah, the correct way would be to grind it all the way down to the fiberglass, past the gel coat, re-glass the whole thing. Right. But with the spider cracking right there, we'd almost be rebuilding this entire lower section right there. And that's not what I'm trying to do, Tom. You would do it the right way. I think like everything, it's always best to start with a win. So we're gonna just do the easy part first. We'll clean this off, which is a nice straight razor. Same down here. I don't have to worry about damaging the paint at all. In fact, I can get a lot of that extra paint out of the way that I won't need down the road. Now these holes are going to have to be filled. You can't fill this with primer or paint. And I think the easiest way for me to do this, or anybody to do this, you can just use a countersinking bit like this, or if you have a Dremel with a little cone stone on it, you can open that up really easily. Because we want to put a little bit of a lip for the filler to grab onto. And I'll still need that Dremel tool anyways, because over here there's a little bit of spider cracking because the factory didn't pre-drill the holes. So we'll try to work our way through that too. And again, we have a little bit of spider cracking right there. I'm going to try to just open those up a little bit. Pretty simple. Basically, we're dentists. That way the filler will have a place to bite into. And it won't just fall back out again. Because it's not a plug at this point, it's going to actually be a repair. This is where I'm right, Tom? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, that was the easier part that I wasn't too afraid of doing. The next part is going to be to grind out this repair, or this crack in the fiberglass, and that crack in the fiberglass right there. To do that, I'll be using a grinder. That's about a 24 grit bit, or paper on it. And yes, I will be masked up for this. We're safe. And I made a mark right here about where I'm going to be grinding so that the fiberglass repair will be a little bit stronger, hopefully. That's the plan. So a lot more damage than we initially thought, but it's the nice thing about fiberglass, you can fix it. with this all ground out, now you can finally see this is the fiberglass and resin. And this white area, that's what's called the gel coat. When this fiberglass rear cap is put in the mold, they spray the back of the mold with the gel coat. It's kind of like a paint, but it's a little bit more resilient than paint. And then they put the fiberglass on the back side of that gel coat in the mold, wait for it to cure, and then when they pull the cap out, that white layer, that gel coat comes out with it. That's why it's gel coat fiberglass, and why the Phylon on the sides are not gel coat. It is fiberglass, but it's not gel coat molded. It's just a roll of Phylon fiberglass material. At any rate, molding fiberglass makes it almost structural, incredibly strong, and easy to repair. Now, because this is such a big crack, I will try to have to support it on the back side, because you can see if I move it, that crack does open up. So it's going to be hard to show you, but I'm basically going to tape off this area so I don't get resin in here, and I'll be putting fiberglass sheets on the inside to kind of act as a band-aid, because I have no access to the inside of the wall without taking the rear cap off, and I'm definitely not going to do that. So like we discussed, the next step is going to be to kind of grind this part out, but because this is a decal right there, that's just going to go ahead and gum up a grinder and a sander. So let's go ahead and get the decals out of the way. Now, this is just a brand new razor blade. Sometimes some adhesive remover helps too, but if you try to take this out with a grinder, you're going to go through a lot of grinding discs. It gums up everything pretty fast. And because I don't even have to really worry about damaging the fiberglass, I'm not that worried about it. And we will need to get all that residue off too. That's where this stuff's going to come in. Now, this stuff is actually pretty expensive, and it's just been going up in price too. What I found as a pretty good alternative was this 1805 Grow Automotive. This whole gallon is about the same price as this little spray can. But once you let it sit on there for a little bit, it kind of denatures all that adhesive. It comes off pretty easily. So that's what we're doing on this decal right here, this other decal right there. This is paint from the factory, and of course, hopefully, this will go all the way to right about here when we're done. And I know some people will swear by having this 3M rubber or eraser for taking your decals off. It does work, but it is pretty time consuming, and it does make a big mess. But of course, that is an option if you wanted to try this too. I've found razor blades to be much easier, much cheaper, and you're going to be doing a lot of brand new razor blades when you do body work. So get used to using razor blades. I personally find this method a lot easier, especially because I don't have to worry about damaging the fiberglass. Now, if this was just doing a decal job, yeah, I can see the logic of using the eraser. Now, what I also hope when we're doing this is that you understand the factories are just trying to make something that's going to appeal to the most amount of people. You don't have to just put it back to the way the factory had it. In fact, if anything, I wish the factories would stop putting decals on and putting their name on everything. I'd be upset if a home builder named my house and put their name all over it too. But if we were to try to do the same color scheme down here, same decals right here, and keep this white up here, we go from a very, I don't know, easy, inexpensive job to a job that's going to be knocking on the door of probably $8,000 to $10,000 when you start thinking about the different colors and decals. Whereas if you just do it yourself, or have the body shop change it up like I'm going to do, it reduces the price substantially. And I hope when it's all said and done, it's going to look a lot better too. And be a little bit more durable, since decals, or decals to my Canadian friends, don't have a long life that they should have to be on the outside of your house. Of course, the other bad thing about decals, even though it's not much of an issue on gel coat fiberglass, is behind the sidewalls where the decals were, it can actually damage the Phylon. So after a few years of having the sun baking on decals on your sidewall, you just can't take the decals off. It'll be discolored, cracked, and have problems. That's why I wish they didn't put decals on. Which again, when you think about it as an RV owner, a complete decal kit of stickers is going to be a couple $1,000s to get from the factory. The factory pays quite a bit of money in labor to put the decals on. I can't say the consumer actually asked for any of these. They just thought it was the cheapest way to make an RV pretty. Alright, so now most of that is off, but I do need to get the rest of the residue off. We don't want any of this residue on. So we'll go ahead and use some of the more bulk stuff to give it one more final wipe down. And I'll just use a gray Scotch pad to get rid of the rest of the residue. Again, this isn't prep. This is just so we don't clog up the sanding disc on the next step. But I will point out, using that eraser did stain it. I have run into that before too. You have to use like a rubbing compound to try to get that out because of the oxidation underneath it all. Alright, so the next step we're going to do is try to bite into the spider cracking. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's hard to see in the camera, but basically I want to try to alleviate some of that spider cracking that I can see. I think it goes right about to here and down into there. Definitely right into there. So we're just going to take about 80 grit to bite into it so we can start stabilizing that gel coat a little bit so that doesn't come through. And because Tom's going to let me borrow it, we got this nice sandpaper, 80 grit, and his DA. It's just an electric DA. You really don't need an air compressor to do most of this work, okay guys? We're living in the future and air tools are becoming a thing of the past. Alright, so the next step is going to do the fiberglass repair there and there. To do that, I did get some mat right here. We'll cut some strips out of it. We'll use this paint tray as a mixing area. And it's already overheating in the sun. And I just have some pretty standard fiberglass resin with the liquid hardener we'll mix in. And we'll mix it to the proper consistency. I even have a mixing cup right here. But make sure you just follow the instructions right there. The first thing I'm going to do is cut the fiberglass mesh to small pieces first, and then we'll mix it up, and then we'll glass it in. The key to this is just going to kind of build this up because this is kind of a V shape, and we're just making a band-aid. And then of course I will be sanding on the back side here and trying to put some fiberglass mesh underneath using my fingers, and I'll tape all this off so we aren't getting fiberglass resin all over here I have to clean up. There's really no magic or science to it, just a nice pair of scissors, and we're going to cut strips out of glass. So I do have all my pieces cut. We'll start with small ones first to bridge the gap and then start building up from there. Once I mix the resin, it's going to want to kick pretty fast, so I just can't film everything, but we'll get that all painted on. You just have to work fast. It's not going to be rocket science. It's going to look ugly, and that's why it's fiberglass. It's crazy to think that this is actual glass. Same thing as a window. Basically, we're just going to be painting the resin on. One piece right there. Just pretty much going to paint it into there. Flexible. It isn't hard anymore. Definitely want to make sure we get all the air pockets out. Just about have it all glassed in. Put another layer on top, bridging the two with a space underneath, another one over top right here. And actually, it's a little bit high right in the middle. I'd rather have too much and we can grind it out than not have a good repair. Remember, the resin doesn't have a lot of strength. It's pretty much just plastic. And the fiberglass gives it a lot of the strength. It's also weird to think that it's flammable, even though it's glass. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see it's all in there and glassed in. So I wait for this to cure. I'm going to start working on the inside, gluing up some repairs. It'll look just like that, but you'll never see it. Well, I think I did a pretty good job getting it on the inside right here, just as a little bit of a backup support. It's just now starting to set up. Now I just need to do the same thing right down there. That'll be a little bit easier. Then it's time for the next step. And start to set up. And I think with that, the fiberglass repair is done and just needs to cure. So as I wait for the resin to harden up before I can do the next step, might as well go address the silicone that's on the body molding right here. You can't paint silicone, so just go ahead and get a brand new razor blade, and we're gonna cut this to get rid of that silicone. In fact, I've seen a lot of body guys paint over the top of silicone. Don't do that. Take a little bit of pride. Hide your mistakes under the silicone. See, how long did that take? A couple seconds. Now when we scuff it up, we can tape it right there, paint it, and then once we're done painting it, fill it back in with silicone, and nobody would ever know unless they watch the video. Now, it might be controversial, but I am adding a little bit of a stabilizing gel coat to where the spider cracks were going to be. Luckily, Tom had this material in stock. So I'm just going to paint it on there, and it should cure and then act like a gel, binding all those tiny little spider cracks back together. It was just stress cracks in the gel coat itself. So a little bit extra work, but a lot easier than grinding it all back down and putting a whole new gel coat back on again. I just wish I would have bought a bigger brush. I forgot about chip brushes. I don't want to make it so thick that I'm going to be spending so much time doing sanding, because I hate sanding. But I also want to put it on thick enough so that it seeps down into those tiny little stress cracks and helps bind it all back together again. And again, while I'm waiting for this to cure, while I do not have any body work to do on the front cap here, I do have some big decals to take off, and I need to start getting rid of all this clearing or peeling clear. This is why you're supposed to prep work before you spray it. We'll have to do the same thing with this too. We're going to have to cut off the silicone. Yeah, luckily they actually did bad work. Should make taking this off a lot easier. I don't have to sand it. Looks like I got the mix pretty good on that too. It's just getting tacky now. Excellent.